are good news for farming, I think.
I think that's right, and there is a connection that people are making with food and where food comes from, like never before in recent memory. And you only need to see how people are worried about getting hold of staples, and the fact that we have flour shortages because people are baking and knowing how to bake is huge. I suppose, Cabinet Secretary, what part do you think that farmers and rural businesses can play in the immediate sort of position of helping lift lockdown and helping the recovery phase, if we can start to look beyond where we've been over the last few months?
Well, I think, working by example, farmers have carried on. That provides confidence to others that, life can resume. I've been very pleased that the whole supply chain, the processors, the abattoirs, the marts, have been able to continue. They've adapted very quickly. And also, I think there's maybe another area of change, which is that we've been pressing the supermarkets, retailers, and some of the food to go quite hard to support more local and Scottish and British produce, to import less, for example, meat. I've spent a lot of time speaking to the bosses of supermarkets, recognizing that many of them do quite a lot of good things. Many of them could do more. Some of them could do quite a lot more in supporting Scotch beef, for example, but also our dairy side, and boost demand for dairy, because there's been a bit of pressure both on dairy and meat prices. The other thing that's happening is there will be an interesting green beef plan come forward about how to farm more sustainably using environmental practice in the beef cattle side. We hope that will come forward fairly soon. There's an opportunity for Scotland to lead the world in that respect as well. So, the thinking hasn't stopped, even although the lockdown has carried on.
Yeah, that's right. And every business has thought about how they can cope with change and changes to supply chains and things like that. We've talked, and you've talked recently, Cabinet Secretary, about rural tourism and the key role that it plays on both farms and in our rural economy. I think lots of people heard you last week in Parliament talking about a potential resumption should all factors continue in the way that they have been around the 15th of July. Can you tell us a bit more about that and how optimistic you're feeling about the agri-tourism sector and rural tourism in general?
Indeed, well, I think agri-tourism has improved in leaps and bounds in the last 10 years and will continue to do so. You're right, Alan. Last week I announced the date of the 15th of July as the target date for resuming tourism, and that means all accommodation, and it means restaurants and bars, provided social distancing can be observed. It means visitor attractions as well. Most things really, apart from things like pop concerts and conferences where people are kind of cheek by jowl, that's more challenging. So the aim, Alan, is to remove the restrictions on general travel so that people from all over the UK can enjoy a holiday in Scotland, and especially welcome our friends from the south of the border, obviously, are always very welcome in Scotland. The aim is to resume on the 15th of July, provided the science is with us, and fingers crossed the virus's numbers are going in the right direction. They're going down at the moment, but I should make that caveat. What I've heard is that for some types of accommodation, there's been a very lively bookings response. I think in the self-catering side, less so in large hotels. So if you fancy a booking in Crieff Hydro or a Glen Eagles, or depending, I suppose, on your preference and your desire, then of course they do have vacancies at the moment. But there has been a good response to the announcement. I think the industry wanted a date to work towards. And I was able to persuade my health colleagues that it was a reasonable thing to do. It was a difficult judgment call. The other thing is, obviously, we've got the social distancing at 2 metres at the moment, and that's the right place for it to be right now. But, it's not written in blocks of stone. If the science moves forward, if the R number goes down, then I hope it will be possible to review that, because that's a real restriction on some businesses not only being able to resume legally, but to resume profitably.
Yes.
Businesses won't go back if they can't make money. I'm conscious that the social distancing rule is a bit of a barrier there at the moment. Everybody recognises that, But both the Prime Minister and the First Minister at the moment, Alan, say that we have to stick with 2 metres. But I hope in the coming weeks and not months that we will see some movement on that.
Good. Well, I must admit, Cabinet Secretary, that in response to your announcement last week, I have booked an agri-tourism stay in the north of Fife in August. So we're looking for a change of scenery for our family to try and step away from some of our challenges that we've been facing living at cheek by jowl with each other for as long. So looking forward to that, looking forward to seeing a different part of the country and enjoying hopefully some good weather and seeing those recovery shoots coming through. We've made some of our podcasts recently we've featured Caroline Miller talking about agritourism, but we've also featured the business community about how important those conversations and those opportunities at the show are. But we've also talked about both RHET and RSABI as organisations that I know you are familiar with and, dare I say, probably fond of in terms of the things you've said in the past. What's the next thing that the farming community should be thinking about to make sure that we're as well placed to come out of COVID if those science and numbers are all heading in the right direction?
Farming in Scotland is achieving a period of pretty solid success at the moment. I think there are some particular COVID challenges. Obviously, with distilling having reduced a bit, there are concerns about the market for maltings, and of course not just distilling but the brewery, the beer side as well. There's also the fruit picking side that we have seen some ingenious arrangements in the Angus area by some of the main players. So there are areas of immediate possible concern. The beef price and the dairy price I've mentioned as well. But by and large, I think, Alan, I get the feeling that an awful lot of people in farming are doing okay at the moment. The weather's been quite good. With the spring grass, has been pretty good, as I understand, around most of the country. So things are going well. On the RHET and RSABI, yes, the Royal Highland Show does a great job in educating children. Every year, I think, is it 60 or 70,000 kids that you reach out to?
That's right, yeah.
So I think there's more that we can do to educate children. I would like to see every child in Scotland get the chance to visit a farm. I mean, if you're a boy in parts of Glasgow, I mean, I've heard it said that they don't know that chips come from potatoes, If you're a child, you only know what you can learn. I do think children learn by seeing and doing. And I very much hope that, we can see as we were about to progress before lockdown, a series of more children getting to understand farming, whether it be a farm visit or other means. And on the other side of things, RSABI is doing a great job. But the worrying thing, Alan, is that when the lockdown happened, I think I'm right in saying, from speaking to Nina in RSABI, that the number of customers doubled pretty quickly, which is a worrying sign. If you know of people that a neighbour that might be struggling a wee bit, there's no harm in reaching out and seeing if they can do with a wee bit of help. Often the first call is the toughest one. So I know from speaking to Nina, but also her team of counsellors, what a great job they do. And we did provide a little bit more money to enable them to hire some more expert counsellors, experienced people, experienced in life, able to have a conversation with a farmer of 60 on terms where they can be trusted and actually make a difference. So I was really impressed by RSABI from the work I've seen. So that's probably more important now than it has been.
I think that's absolutely right. And they've got their hashtag Keep Talking campaign that they've been running all the way through June. And we are helping with that, not just to promote it, but also the RHASS directors. We are doing a Phone 5 initiative. And that's about the conversations that you normally have around the Royal Highland Show that you're going to miss this year. Pick up the phone and speak to a few different people. And as you say, it might just be that phone call of, say, I'm thinking of you, I'm missing the fact that we'll have a chance to have a chat at the ringside or at the bar or at the QMS briefing, to see what might come and have that social interaction. It'll never replace what we can't have this year at the Royal Highland Show, but it does give you a chance to have some of those soft engagements.
Gentlemen, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt. This has been fascinating. And again, Cabinet Secretary, we're hugely grateful for your input. Thank you. I'm conscious we've just got 3 or 4 minutes left. And I wonder, Cabinet Secretary, if you'd mind just giving us a few further thoughts on the current debate going on about the standard of food imports and everything surrounding that.
Sure. Well, I fervently believe that we must protect ourselves against the importation of beef, for example, where that has not been produced in accordance with the very high standards of animal welfare, of looking after the animals, and of hygiene and traceability and provenance. We have the highest standards in the world here. And, we've learned the hard way over the years with disease problems. In some countries, there's no provenance whatsoever. None. No ability to determine where a problem has arisen if there's a disease problem. So I think there's a very strong mood in the farming communities that this is something that must be done by government. Michael Gove did assure me some time ago last year that this would be included in a trading bill about trade. I don't think that's happened as yet. I think there was an amendment from a Tory MP, actually, to make this the law, which was rejected. So I'm not quite sure where we are at the moment. But as far as, I really don't want to be political, but I think the overwhelming view of farmers in Britain, not just Scotland, is we must be protected against the flooding of cheaper imports, cheaper because they don't have to comply with the same standards in abattoirs, for example, or traceability, protection against disease, welfare. If you don't have these standards, you can produce more cheaply and you can undercut the prices in Britain as a result. That's not right. That must be prevented. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to make that clear.
Thank you very much. And I know from your ongoing support of Scotland Food and Drink, for example, that you support in exactly the same way we do, that Scotland is a land of food and drink with the most phenomenal reputation, and we need to make sure that reputation stands strong.
Well, indeed, and it's one of Scotland's greatest assets, and it will continue to be. With post-COVID, we will continue to be producing high-quality food, thanks to Scotland's farming community, and I'm very proud of them.
I think that's right, that we don't miss the opportunity to make those connections and celebrate them, whether that's at home because we're getting local deliveries of local food, or whether it's at something like the Royal Highland Show. Cabinet Secretary, I always like finding out where they would first head to if they had a free schedule at the Royal Highland Show. So if your ministerial diary was cleared for the day and you're walking in the gate at Ingliston with a full Highland Show going on, if you had open choice, where would you go to first?
Well, I probably would go first to where I normally go first, which is to get a good rolling sausage at the QMS stand. I think I'd head there first because after I consume that, then everything else in the day would tend to go pretty well.
I'm sure Alan Clark and the team would be delighted to hear that.
That was a great chat, and thank you to the Cabinet Secretary and to Alan Laidlaw. And thank you for listening and being with us. That's it from me for a while. It'll be Monty with the next episode, which will be released on Monday the 29th of June. If you're listening on the day this episode is first released, that's Thursday the 18th of June, the first day of what should have been the Highland Show. It's also National Keep Talking Day from RSABI, so we'll leave you this time with a few words about the Keep Talking campaign from RHASS Chairman Bill Gray.
We're all going to miss everything about the show. The spectacle, the buzz, the colour, the atmosphere, livestock, trade stands, horses, food, all the things that we normally enjoy when we go to see the show. However, I think the thing that will be missed the most is the social interaction and the ability to catch up with friends that you haven't seen for quite some time. So to help RSABI's Keep Talking campaign, the Society is launching its Phone 5 initiative. So what we're asking you to do is to pick up the phone and speak to 5 people that you would normally speak to during the show, or you'd normally catch up with during the show. It'll be the hashtag Phone 5 initiative. So John, Neil, Rob, Colin, Kalina, you're going to get a call from me shortly. Pick up the phone, everybody. Call 5 people that you would normally speak to at the show and make a date to meet up again at next year's show. So here's looking forward to 2021.